welcome to the podcast. I am Melissa Matheson, and it just seems like Christmas came and went, and all I did was blink. But wow, what a great time with family and friends. I hope you enjoyed your time as well. Hey, we've got a new year coming up. In just another day or two, we will be celebrating the beginning of a whole new year and a whole new decade. For the occasion, I have invited my friend Josh to come and talk with us about things we can be looking forward to in the year 2020. Josh has a strong prophetic gift to see and hear things from God in a unique way, and I'm always amazed at the different ways that God speaks to different people. You will be too after you hear this conversation. I also asked Josh to share his story of how he met Jesus. Josh had a very radical encounter with Jesus in the middle of the night when he was in his early 20s, and it completely changed his life. Drug addiction, depression, suicidal thoughts were gone, and today he is passionate about teaching people how to see and hear from God themselves. So grab your coffee and join us at the table. We're talking about soccer, gold rocks, and generational blessings. Today on What's Next, God?
I really do drink coffee. If there's one addiction that I point to in my life, it would definitely be coffee. I drink coffee every morning. I don't get a headache from not drinking coffee, which is
don't.
great.
I do.
I don't. I thankfully don't, because I know it's now. For some reason, if I fast, and usually I drink less coffee, I still drink like half a cup of coffee in the morning and afternoon. If I fast for some reason, I do get the headaches. It could be because of sugar in general, but I do drink coffee, and I really enjoy good coffee. And I am not the biggest Starbucks person, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
Yeah. I will drink Starbucks, obviously traveling a lot, because they're the best go-to, and they're easy accessible. But I'm
consistent.
Not the biggest.
You always know
consistent.
It's going to always be the same thing every time you get it.
I know what I'm getting.
Yes.
I know what to get. I know that they do a good job, but I usually don't if I had a choice.
So what do you make at home? Do you have like a drip coffee pot? How do you make coffee?
I am old school. I have like the old regular coffee pot. I just have good coffee if I can get it.
What kind of coffee?
I try to mix it up all the time. If I have a go-to, I actually do drink certain Starbucks coffee, but because I do like their coffee in general, or at least a couple of them. But I do also Pete's a lot.
Do you
go-to.
really?
For some reason, I like it. It works out.
Dave loves Pete's coffee.
Is that right?
That's one of his. That's one of his favorites. When I first met him, I was like, no, never heard of it. Does Betsy drink coffee with you at home?
She does. I make her coffee every single morning. I bring her coffee every morning in bed. That's
really
one of the things for our relationship, for our marriage, and something that I promised in the beginning.
That is so great. Stephen Womack does that for his wife Bryn.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was here. He did an episode with us, and he said that was his act of service, his first act of service to the day, and for his wife. Was to bring her a cup of coffee.
No, I could definitely see Stephen as a acts of service person. Is he acts of service?
No, but he is for her because he wants to do that for her. No, I think he's like words of affirmation and quality time or something
like
that.
Yeah. I wonder is she words of affirmation, acts of service?
I'm not sure what she is. We'll have to ask her. They're actually going to come on and do a podcast episode with us soon about how they met. Dated and married.
Gotcha.
I want you and Betsy to do one too.
We'd absolutely do that. Yeah.
All right, let me tell everybody.
You're a part of that story.
I am a part of that story. I love that story because y'all just celebrated your 4th anniversary.
We did.
I cannot believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah. It's been 4 years. It feels like it's actually been a lot longer.
It does.
Like I've known her a lot longer or something, but it has been 4 years.
Well, that's just God. When God brings people together, he brings them together. He knits them together. So
that's very true.
But I want you and Betsy to come and tell me that story because I love that story. So it actually showed up in my time hop
Did it really?
couple weeks ago. Like, oh yeah, Josh and Betsy and the infamous text, me and Betsy texting when she like first met you, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
It is. There's a lot of funny stories in there.
All right. So you're married to my friend Betsy, and that's how I met you. And tell me a little bit about you first. Like, where are you from?
Yeah, I
Who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? Yeah, I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was born really on a little farm area just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, near Concord, North Carolina.
Okay.
Which is NASCAR kind of area.
Really?
Yeah. You would not think that knowing me.
No,
if anybody knows me would never think that. Yeah. It's like the opposite. But that's where I was born. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
And that's where my mother lives, and my youngest brother lives there. Currently, my next youngest brother also lives there, and he's married, and him and his wife they have been in New York for several years, but they just moved there. But that's
you have two brothers?
I have two brothers.
And no sisters?
I have two stepsisters.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They're not as I guess known when you're around me because I just didn't grow up with
you
them.
weren't raised with them.
Yeah. They're a lot older than me, and I just wasn't around.
No,
them.
I understand. Yeah, but you were just you and two brothers raised together.
Yeah.
So, what a house. Which is so funny because you have 3 daughters.
I have 3 daughters. Yeah, one of 3 boys. The funny thing is my mom is one of 3 girls. Then I was one of 3 boys, and I right now, of course, had 3 girls.
Yeah.
And so if I break the mold, it'll be another girl, I guess, or another child. Yeah.
3 girls. You have Isabel is how old now? She 9?
Isabel's 9. That's right. Isabel's 9. She is at the house right now, running around yelling with Rosie, who's my second, who's about 2.5. And then I have, of course, Goldie, who is 3 months old.
I love your family. Your girls, your wife.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's quite a different house than what you grew up in with all the guys.
That's such a big question for me. I feel all the time surprised. When I first was finding out that I was going to have a girl, I was very surprised in what to do. I just was like, I don't know what to do with 3 girls or a girl. And because I grew up with boys, my mom is very tomboyish. She's very kind of outdoors. She grew up.
Well, she had 3
she
sons.
Came up on a farm. Yeah, she had 3 boys. She's a strong, very strong woman. She's kind of a person that's like, hey, we're all going to church and we're all going fishing. She's like in the ocean. She's kind of that type of personality. And so she's a strong personality. So I was like, God, this is going to be really interesting. I don't know what to do with this girl. But once you have one, you just fall in love. You can't do anything else.
You're great with girls.
I enjoy it totally.
It was just meant to be. Now you played soccer for a while too, didn't you? Didn't you play kind of, professionally, competitively?
People say professionally. I say semi-professionally, I guess. It's probably more correct, maybe. But I played in college. I played college soccer in Charlotte, and for Wingate University, which is a great university, great sports program. The coach there is a guy named Gary Hamill, who is this Northern Irish, yeller. I mean, he can scream at everybody in the world, and then you just don't know what you're doing wrong. But he was like a dad to me. I loved him to death, and he really brought me there. And after Wingate, I played for a couple different teams, and I ended up on the Carolina Dynamo, which is at the time in Greensboro, North Carolina, and they've soccer teams now, their names have been bought out all over the place. The Charlotte Eagles is where I ended up the last part, and they've been bought out. I think they're like the Charlotte Independents now. I think they were bought out by Greyhound Bus Company. Yeah.
So how many years did you play soccer altogether, though?
The Panthers, I think, just bought them. I played on and off. I played on a couple of loans. I played on a loan in England. I played a little while even in Jamaica for a team called Constant Springs, which is an interesting story how I even got there. And then
how long? Wait, go back. Okay, so you said England. You played in England. How long did you play there? It
was a very short loan for like a month. So the seasons of the U.S. run kind of spring through the summer to kind of fall-ish.
Okay.
And even earlier then, because now we have more teams in the MLS, Major League Soccer, and the USL, which is what I was a part of at the time. So there's more teams and the seasons are longer, a little bit longer now. And so because they would end short, you'd have these winter kind of open gaps. And so people would just try out all areas of Europe because they're going all year round.
Okay.
So
you played in England, you played in Jamaica.
I did a little thing. I did a little thing in Jamaica when I was like 17, really, right before I went to college. I thought I was going to stay in Jamaica and never leave. And,
Josh Hollingsworth in Jamaica. I could see him in dress.
Before I was saved, so it was very interesting life and world. I had a coach who was a very good friend of mine. I mean, this guy's name is Ed Curry. He was like a dad to me. I loved him to death. Just kind of crazy Jamaican, but just brilliant soccer coach mind. And he had just the best teams of the area. And he was a big influence in my life. But I played there for a little while. And then Gary Hamill, this Northern Irish, guy, convinced me to come to Wingate University. And I was the college to be there. And I had a few places that I was going to go to, but I liked him and I had a relationship with him. And so I went to college there, and they had a very, very good soccer program in their college. And a lot of people don't know this, but then, this is of course a little while ago, but then with college soccer, Division II had lots of open rules about international players.
Okay.
So you would have people from all over Europe, England, South America on your team, and you would have just phenomenal. Some Division II teams would be just phenomenal. So we had a very, very strong team, and the rules have changed a little bit and tightened a little bit. America's gotten a little bit better in general. Just in our college programs, our soccer programs have a lot more money in it. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different now, but after that, so I played, like my roommates one was from Northern Ireland, Omagh, Northern Ireland. One was from Bristol, England. One was from Southampton, England. One was from Wales, from Cardiff, Wales. So
you could go pretty much anywhere in the world and you might just know somebody there. I feel like you do because you travel a lot internationally. And I feel like how does Josh know all these people? Like, where did they all come from? And who knows if it wasn't somebody... friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
You never know.
You just never know how you've met all these people. Yeah. And I think that's even before you knew the Lord, really.
Yep. That was before I knew the Lord.
And so even then, God kind of put you around nations, around people from other countries, because that's part of who you are now. Is you have a heart for nations and for people in nations. And God was doing that all those years ago in college.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As a soccer player. Tell me a little bit about how you met Jesus.
Yeah.
Because your life changed.
My life very radically changed. I knew that I actually knew Jesus, the real story. I'm saying the real story because you don't always get the chance to say too much of the full story. But I still kind of knew Jesus as a kid. I just didn't know him. I hadn't experienced him and really asked him into my heart. So I was around church as a kid. My mother, who is a wonderful prophetic voice, I mean, she threw off the city of Charleston. She was outside of every dynamic, which Charleston has this kind of old school, almost traditional church kind of city in general. Very Catholic, very Protestant in the sense of Anglican, Episcopal, of course has the Baptist influence, but especially a little bit more during this time as I was a kid growing up. And in the 90s, and my mom would be at a very traditional church, St. Philip's Episcopal Church. She would get up there and start doing the prophetic on these, this big, niced out room where everyone's wearing a suit, even the kids. And she was this person giving prophetic words, and everyone knew her for this inner healing world, this prophetic world. I didn't understand it as a little kid. You just saw my mom do it, and you were like, wow, that's
okay.
crazy.
So tell me a little bit about when you're saying the prophetic and the prophetic world. Yeah. What does that mean? Some people may have never heard of that.
Yeah. That's a very good question. So she was with the prophetic. It's being able to hear the Lord's voice and then give someone an encouraging, edifying, exhorting word. And it can dictate with. Oftentimes, it dictates with things what we would call with the spiritual gifts. Those gifts are the 9 gifts of the Spirit that are in 1 Corinthians 12. And they're kind of concluded not concluded, but talked in more of a church community in 1 Corinthians 14. and she would do the prophetic gift or a word of knowledge usually. And
So
that
she
word-
would hear something from God, and she would release that word to either a group or to a specific person.
Absolutely. And she would do it in these, 600-700 person traditional churches that were just
who were like, we've
blown
never
away.
seen this before or
Yes.
heard of this. What are you
Yes.
doing?
And she would, so an example would be, sir, back there, I just see you driving in a red car. You have a red truck. It's not your major truck. It's your secondary truck, but you really love this truck because you use it when you go out to your farm property. And I feel like the Lord is going to speak to you there on your farm property. He's been trying to find you and speak to you when you're on your farm property in your red truck. She would have those words of knowledge that would waken a person up, and they'd be like, oh my gosh.
Nobody would know that.
Yeah.
That's got to be the Lord.
Yeah. How does she know these things?
Yeah.
Like, it's so specific. It's so particular to that person. And the person would be like, I know that the Lord is paying attention to me because this person is dialed in and aware of it and hearing it. And then usually from that word of knowledge, she would give also a prophetic word. And it could be, let's say in that example, start really, when you're out there, start listening to the Lord and ask him to speak to you, because then you're going to start to hear his still small voice. And it's going to become a place where you start to build your own prophetic gift and prophetic life and prophetic heart from hearing his voice in that place. And so she would give like a little gold, kind of futuristic nugget that went with those words of knowledge. And people loved it. They just didn't know what to do with it because it had not been built into the environment or the culture yet. This gifting, this spiritual gift.
So like, this okay? Is this God? Are you, know, somebody telling you this stuff?
Yeah. How do you know this? There was no Facebook then. There's no Instagram then.
True.
So it gave clout even probably to how did she find out this information.
Yeah.
But she would kind of do that.
So you're raised by, and your mom is an amazing woman.
Yes,
I love her a lot. But so you're raised in this atmosphere with her. So you knew of Jesus, but like when you say you didn't really know Jesus, what do you mean?
Yeah. So I think I had a stepdad, and my first father, Billy Hollingsworth, passed away when I was about 2 years old in a storm and going on a fishing trip. He got sucked up into literally a cloud, and the other guys that were on the island off the coast of North Carolina, near Wilmington, North Carolina, watched him go into this cloud during a storm. That's how my first father died.
I did not know that. I've never heard that story. Yeah.
So it's very kind of mysterious story. There was a 3-day helicopter search party. Never found him. This guy was my mother's, love of her life. They lived down on the same road. They were best friends their whole life. It just devastated her. So this happened when I was about 2 years old, and my mom was pregnant with my second brother. And so this is why there's like 2 stepsisters and a younger brother he's got a different last name. His name is Jennings Kerr. But my second brother was in my mother's womb, about to be born. And she just went into a big depression. And I think, I know that I did. I took on a type of infant depression, to use that psychologist term or diagnosis, because I had all of them checked off, the ingredients of it.
Yeah.
And I took on some of her depression, passed back and forth with my grandmother's a lot. She later on, getting in her healing, had a real radical experience with the Lord and got into the ministry from that experience.
Okay.
And I think as I grew up, then my mom, she later got remarried to a man who I do call dad. His name is John Kerr, and he became my stepdad, but he just didn't. He's a very self-made military, a strong personality, later became a lawyer, but just cold and more stoic and didn't know how to function with kids. If you were over the 18, he was good with you. He's very charismatic personality, 18 and up, 21 and up, but he just didn't know what to do with kids.
Yeah. How old were you when he came into your life?
I was probably about 5.5, almost 6 years old.
Okay, you were little.
So I was little. But I think I just had this infant depression. I don't know if I took it on from my mother or from the moment, but that environment of that time, I almost took on, I guess, what you call like the spirit of it, that depression in that way. And I kind of reacted out of that place towards him. So me and him never had a very good relationship until the day that I would get saved. And so because of that, I think my mother trying to, and she knows about this stuff. I've talked about this, been through life with her in a big way. So it's easy for me to say this on podcast, but now these days.
Yes.
But she, I think she was trying to cater to me well, with still combining the Lord, but they were still working through so many areas of their own marriage in this second marriage that both of them had. And he had 2 daughters that lived in another spot. And then she had 2 boys, and then she had a third with him. They were trying to cater to so many dynamics. I think they lost some of the discipline. No, you're going to church, you're going to know the Lord. And I did as a kid go to church, but as I grew up, I started making my own choice very early, and already was getting into so much trouble, probably acting out of all my depression, that I got to a place where I just ran away as far as I could from the Lord.
Yeah.
And it started really probably about the time I was in middle school, and then I just heavy into drugs. And the thing is, when you're young, you can play all these sports, and I love sports. It was probably the greatest outlet I had. It helped form so many good things in me when I was in turmoil and in a bad situation in my home environment, in my mind's environment, my own thoughts, just that kind of thing. But soccer just was this way out. Sports in general, but soccer became the major. And it kept me healthy. It kept me moving forward. It kept me having a future, really, in a lot of different ways. It gave me a place of peace as the outlet of it through practice, training, or games.
And even having a coach, you had a consistent
had a father
person,
figure,
right? Speaking into your life a little bit, helping you be accountable,
absolutely,
athletically.
And I think I had all these bitternesses, this hurt, this uncertainties, these lies that were building up within me as I grew up in my youth. And I had this false perspective, even about a lot of things, from my standpoint, that was just hurt, seeing through a certain type of lens. And so the drug side just grew. And again, you can, when you're young, you can stay healthy for a little while. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so then it runs into a wall eventually, but I could stay healthy for a little while. So college, I was fine, but the drugs would become worse, and it would get into all kinds of things with women, the whole deal.
Yeah,
the
whole lifestyle of that.
The lifestyle, being on this big
So this is high
team.
school, and this is college.
Yes,
we're still going through all of this. Okay.
High school, college, and then and so you have. So I would just do wild things. You know what I mean? I'd be in Jamaica playing soccer, but I'd be going out to these crazy clubs at night and all kinds of things going on. It got really bad. You'd go out partying after a soccer game, and you'd wake up. I woke up one time in a different city. I had no idea how I got there. Just not very healthy things. So when I was going to play professionally, I was good enough to get in the door. But I was starting to already have this internal breakdown. Just my character was not there.
Yes.
My internal strength, my internal heart, my heartbeat for life was not there. I think the drugs, the amount of drugs, because they were more hard drugs by then, it started getting so often, that I was not motivated to play.
Yeah. So lack of discipline, no self-control. It comes out in every area of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're exactly right. Exactly right. And you understand a lot of these dynamics
I do.
Very clearly. And I think for me, I know that I just got to this point where one of my soccer coaches at the Carolina Dynamo was like, just cussed me out, called me in his office, cussed me out. He was like, "What is the matter with you? You're so unmotivated. This is why you're not playing." I wasn't starting anymore. And he's just upset with me. And it kind of gave me, one of the people that kind of gave me a wake-up call of what am I doing? And I was so depressed. And you would think you're playing now professionally, you've got your foot in the door, you've got a contract that gives you money. This is all these little ingredients that you think are so wonderful. But I was still so upset and still on the other side depressed that I was so unmotivated. So
how old are you there?
Probably 22 years old.
Okay.
22. Yeah, about 22.
Yeah, but you really don't realize, you do now, but you didn't at the time realize that a lot of this that you were in the middle of was a result of things from years and years ago.
So true.
So you didn't know how to fix anything because you really didn't know what was broken in you yet.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I didn't know how to fix it. And I didn't want anybody's help, especially from someone like my mom or my family.
Yes.
Because, you know what I mean?
Because you think they're the ones that kind of broke you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't hear anybody else. I'm hardened and stoic to them.
Yeah.
So I've cut off a lot of sources of life in a lot of ways. I've cut off the Lord, all these kinds of things. And so, but my mom was, the crazy thing about my mom is, she always loved me. Like she was really, even when she knew I was doing very wild and crazy things, some I don't want her to ever know. But she always just loved me. She would, it's not that she wouldn't say, "Hey, I wouldn't do that," because, hey, that's a bad decision. That's not very wise. It's not that she wouldn't say something like that, but she always displayed love. She was always had a soft voice to me, even in all my hardness. So, see, and so I really respected that a lot. Yeah. So even though I had gone my own way and separated myself from my family by 17, she still was a voice in my life because I respected her so much. Yeah. And so I eventually I'm very suicidal. I cut myself a bunch. I car wrecked my car at the time, trying to go through the windshield kind of thing. Not healthy situations at all. I said, "Hey, Mom, this is my situation. I'm at the end of my rope here. What do you have to say about it?" And she just simply told me, and she's probably said it to me 100 times, maybe 500 times.
But it meant something this time.
It meant something this time because you're exactly right. I was getting over myself. Mm-hmm. I was getting outside of my own self-pity, my own inward world of destruction. I was sticking my head outside of that cloud for the first time. And she said, "Josh, you know who your real father is," which hit me so strong because I've had this father dynamic.
Right.
And I had no relationship with one almost at all. And then the other one obviously passed away when I was little. Who's so highly talked about, especially by my mom. And then she says, God really is your father, and he always will be your father. And she quoted a psalm that is, God is a father to the fatherless. She said it to me, and when she said it, it's like the revelation of it was moving. It's like it had wind, had breath, had life in her words, and it hit me, and I just knew that maybe there is a God. I finally come back to that conclusion that I may have been revolving around as a child. And again, I went to a Catholic school. I went to an Episcopal church as a kid. So I'd been around some type of church, but I didn't find or encounter the Lord in these churches necessarily, at least not for myself. But it started me on this journey for about 3-4 months. And is during this particular summer. And I am not knowing how to pray, so I would kind of shut myself in a room or in a house. Where I was playing with the Carolina Dynamo. I'd shut myself in this apartment, this townhouse that I had, and I would just yell at the Lord, "If you're really my father, why can I not see your face? Why do I not know your voice? How is a child supposed to know a father if they don't know these things?" I didn't know how to pray, but that was my prayer.
That was how you were praying.
That was how I was praying.
Because praying is talking to God.
You're right.
And you were talking to God.
I was finally just talking to him.
Yeah.
Just come as where I am.
Like you would to a dad.
Absolutely.
Or to a friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I literally yelled this or said this constantly just in my own thoughts for 3 or 4 months. I tried to visit a couple churches. I literally visited 2 churches I can think of off the top of my head right now. And I just couldn't find the Lord there. So I went there, stayed the whole time, walked out. I was like, Lord, he's not there. I literally did that. I went to a Buddhist because of course, I don't understand the dynamics of it.
Right. You don't think of God being in a particular denomination or in a building.
Absolutely.
You're just like, I don't know where you are. I'm going to go find you somewhere.
Yeah, you're just searching for this
Anywhere.
person. Yeah. And I went to a Buddhist. Buddhist told me to meditate. I would go to his place and meditate, and I just didn't want to do it. He weirded me out in general. he was a strong Buddhist temple. This area had a big, the outside gold painted, temple, and I just didn't. For some reason, it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah,
I still had that whole suicidal thing in the back of my brain that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to live that long. And I was like, surely I can't make it much longer. And it was a very serious, real thing to me. So I was like, I've got to find this God person if he's my father, or I'm going to die.
Did anybody know you were having those thoughts? Did you ever talk to anybody about it? Or was this just you by yourself?
That's a very good question. I don't think anyone's ever actually asked me that question out of all the years. But and I don't know why that is, but I did talk to some of my teammates I was playing soccer with. I kind of talked with one of my friends, and really I just talked to my mother. I felt like I could not talk to the two dads I kind of had in my life. Or one was more of a big brother, which was my college coach, Gary Hamill, and the other one was Ed Curry, who was the Jamaican from Kingston, Jamaica, who's coach of my high school soccer team in Charleston, South Carolina. And I just felt like I couldn't talk to them. I felt like they didn't have the answer, or they wouldn't understand me. And they were not very spiritual people. They were kind of stoic men's men.
Okay.
They were very...
Almost as if you admitting that would be a bit of a weakness, and you maybe felt shame.
Exactly.
About those thoughts.
You're hitting the nail on the head. I did feel shame because a man is not supposed to function like this.
Gotcha.
And they were very strong people. So Gary Hamill came from Northern Ireland during the 80s. I can't remember, he watched one of his family members, I want to say a parent or a grandmother, go up in a car bomb. He came from a very rough background.
Man.
Ed Curry from Kingston, Jamaica came from a very rough background. This is the 70s in Kingston, Jamaica, which was revolting against the police. So you had these two guys that came from very tough backgrounds. So they had tough personalities that were kind of could have some crazy places.
Yeah.
They had a little edge to them for sure. And so I just didn't know who to talk to. And my friends, it was such a party lifestyle and such a doing crazy things or playing that there wasn't as much personal place. You might talk about girls or classes or graduating or future or soccer or something of this nature, but you didn't often talk about your own heart, your own mind, your own internal world. It just really wasn't much of a dynamic of conversation with the culture that I was around.
Okay.
So it was very little that I talked to people. I didn't have that environment. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like community is so important, especially the community that you're in is a community that's able to be open, at least with certain people, not everybody, but at least with certain people that will really edify you and not aid the self-pity, but give you real solution and aid or something of this nature. And so I was so inside of myself in that internal world that I just didn't let a lot of people in. And because I grew up with the depression, I kind of was already an independent person as is. I was very much, which is of course the plan of the enemy to isolate you from people.
Exactly.
And so I was very much already molded myself in its own independence and its isolation. So that did not help. So my mom really became the only solution. And when I think she capitalized on the moment well, which was probably, again, something she said before, by going straight to my root issue, which was the Father. And it literally drove me to find the Father. If this guy's the creator, if this guy's God, if this guy's the Lord, as my mom calls him, and if he's my Father, then I've got to find this person. And when I'm in Charleston, I'm going to stay in my room that I grew up as a kid. I'm going to find him. I've got to find this guy. If he's real, I got to do this, or I'm just going the other direction, and I'm going to go the other direction strong. Because I don't I'm a passionate
you're
person.
all or
There's no
nothing.
halfway.
There is no halfway with you.
Yeah. Who wants to go through life kind of just like seeing what comes? I'm more like, let's dictate life.
Well, I know the end of the story. I know that you found him. Where did you find him?
Yes, I saw in the room. I started yelling at him again for a couple hours. If you're my father, why can I not see your face? Why can I not hear your voice? It so overwhelmed my soul, my person. I fell asleep on the bed. No covers on or anything. I just lay down on the bed and overwhelmed and just fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, I feel someone step into the room, and I think that someone has come in to either burglarize the house
or kill you.
Yeah. And so it freaks me out. I actually wake up slowly because it's pitch dark in the room, and I'm like, oh, and that you feel that feeling when someone's in the room. And when I open my eyes, I'm staring right at the clock on the desk next to the bed, and it's exactly 3:16 on this clock, 3:16 a.m. And I can see this light at the foot of my bed, and the light starts to step close to me, and it gets bigger and brighter. And all of a sudden, I realize there is a person in my room that's a light bulb that is filled with light in the middle of the night. I'm going to die. And I'm thinking, this person they have that much light. They're a lot stronger than me. And I was so afraid because this person had light coming off, about 2-3 inches of light coming off of them. Then there was light coming off of that. Which is still something that I think through. And he came across right up to the side of my bed, right next to me. And I am just shaking in my bed. And he has this large golden rock about the size of a basketball. And he leans over me, and I'm like, he's going to crush me with that thing. I'm thinking in my mind, this is the way I'm going to go. Who would have thought? I'm going through all this stuff, just terrified. And this gold rock, puts this gold rock on, it goes down on my bed. I can feel the weight of it, like a large piece of gold almost. It weighs into my bed, up against my chest and my arm. I'm looking at this person. I don't want to look at him in the eyes because I think this is just the craziness of my thoughts in the moment.
I'll die if I look at him.
I look at him, he's going to kill me for sure. And I could see the underneath of his mouth so clearly of the smile that is on his face. So obviously this person is very content and even happy. And I am
happy
terrified.
That you're about to die.
Yeah. They're like,
who are you?
Must be thinking, what? Why is this person so terrified? You know what I mean? Calm down, peace. And it says nothing to me. There's no word spoken. Leans over me, large body, leans over me, picks up this large golden rock, and then starts to shove it in my chest. My total chest area so it goes from being this weight, this is throwing me off. I just maybe want to look at physics again and again. And the weight of it went against my arm and my body on the bed, then goes into my chest, then he shoves it and puts it in my chest. I'm yelling when this happens. And then he leans back up like he's finished, and then turns around, and it looks like he steps into the air in my room. But when he steps into kind of like the air, he goes out of the room, and I can see the air moving almost like the Matrix movie. I can see the air moving like this in my room because it was subject to this person. And it surprised me how much how the authority this person had on even the room. And I just got down on my knees and said, I know, Lord, this is you. I know that I'm talking to you right now. I know that you're aware of me. I know that you put something inside of me that's stronger than ever, a rock, the golden rock, something of the Lord. Mm-hmm. That's the rock that's stronger than ever. And that this will establish me. My heart already felt different. And I'd not cried since I was a little kid. I just got so stoic growing up. So I just had not had emotion, and I just started crying so hard for maybe the first time since I was probably 9 or 10 years old. And I just remember crying so hard, and I just said, Lord, I don't just give you my heart or my life. I give you everything. I give you every day. I didn't even know the language, but this is what I'm saying. on my knees, I give you every single day of my life. I give you every single part of me. I don't know what to do, but you have everything. I'm just saying this. It's like a natural response out of me. And of course, I decided to go back to Charlotte, North Carolina, and meet up with my head coach at the college to see about this transition. So I figured I'll just drive. This is Sunday morning now. And I had to drive up. It's about a 3-hour drive, 3.5 from Charleston to Charlotte. So I drive back to Charlotte, and I pull over in Fort Mill, South Carolina, right up near the border of North Carolina. And I'm in that area. I'm pumping gas in my car, and I hear this sound, this music coming from down the road. I decide to get in my car and follow the sound. I'm like, I've got time. I'm just going to follow and see what that sound is. So I put the gas, finish getting gas, get back in my car, drive down the road. It's in this neighborhood. So I turn into this neighborhood. As I'm doing that, I get out of the car, and at the time, this church is building another church. So they're in this big old revival looking tent as they're waiting for the transition of the new building. And I walk into the back of this tent revival church, and there's probably 400 or 500 people in the room. I sit on the very back row. There's about 4 empty rows on the back. And then this lady who's the wife of the husband, who's the head pastor of the church, her name is Bonnie Chavda. I didn't know her at the time. She walks up to the microphone. It's like interrupts this other person giving announcements. And she says, "You sitting back there on the back of the row, come up here right now."
And she's talking to you.
And she's pointing at me. She's got long like this.
500 people in the room. You, that guy on the back row.
And it's obvious where I am here, because it's so the space there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Why? I mean, it must have been 5 minutes after I've sat down. And I look around as if I'm playing off. You're
pretending, like you. It's
totally,
not you. Yeah,
totally pretending.
But you knew it was you.
It was obvious, very obvious. and I look back at her and yelled from the very back. It was quite a distance. I yelled quite loud too. No, I'm not coming up there. And she is thankfully a strong personality, and stronger than mine. And everyone is like surprised that I would even say that. You could tell the church atmosphere has now shifted completely. And I'm like, oh my Lord. And she says, "You sitting back there." And this is what actually got me, because I was going to refuse. I was going to get up and walk out, because I'm a very stubborn person at the time, even though I've just had this experience 3 or 4 hours ago.
You just had an encounter with God.
Earlier that day. I'm already tired. I've only slept a few hours. And so she says, "I see this golden color, this golden ring of the Lord around you. Come up here right now." And when she said that golden piece,
you were thinking of that rock.
That she would know something that just happened to me a couple hours ago. And so I was like, she must know something. Yes, she knows. I've got to ask her what happened. And I don't know the Christian world, but this is the experience I've had. You can't take that away. You know, when you have that something, how can you take it away?
Yeah,
it's so real.
Let me interrupt right here. Okay. Because you've just said a whole lot, and here that is probably, if people are listening, they go, that doesn't make sense. He's making that up. But you were not having a dream.
Not having dreams.
You were woken up and you saw all this happen in real life with your eyes.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't make sense and we can't explain it.
Yeah.
But you know it happened and it was real to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if people think you've made this up, because it was real to you.
Yes.
And I want to set some people free. You might have some weird things happen.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You know what happened.
Yeah.
You know that it was real. And here you are. So you've had this encounter that you don't understand.
Yeah.
You're going, you were traveling and heard music when you stopped for gas.
Yeah.
Go to this tent. This lady starts talking and you're like, she must know something about what happened.
This is definitely a journey. Yeah.
So it sounds weird.
Yeah.
But the story is kind of all coming together. So you go up front.
Yes.
And what did she say?
Yeah, I go up front. I start to walk down this aisle. Of course, the or 500 people are staring right at me because
of course.
I've made a scene. And thankfully this particular woman is very gracious and very patient.
Oh, I love Bonnie Chopped.
Yeah. A wonderful voice of the Lord. And she just is, exudes the fruit of the Spirit. She sees me coming forward, and right when I get to the front, I'm right coming ahead of the aisles of all the chairs of seats. Almost right in front of, she's about a 5-foot platform that she's on at this moment. And I'm right when I come to the front, I can't see anything. I don't see anything with my eyes open, nothing of this nature.
Wait, what do you mean? You just couldn't see all of a sudden?
I just
your
couldn't.
Vision?
Well, my vision is regular, but I don't see anything, but I hit something with my face that I cannot see.
Okay. So like something was invisible, but you felt
something
it.
Something was invisible. I don't know if it was the same thing that walked in my room earlier today or what, but I can't see anything with my natural eye.
Okay.
And I hit something. I feel my face hit the chest of some person who seems much taller, but I cannot see this person.
Okay.
And so when I hit the chest of this person, I feel it, and it knocks me to the ground. And I land on the ground, I hit the ground hard, and I immediately start singing. I start singing, and this particular man who is probably 40s, 50s at the time, late 40s, early 50s at the time, who grew up in Italy, who's been living in America now for like 20 years, but he stands up and he says, this guy is singing in Italian. So I'm singing in a tongue that I have no idea. I do not know anything.
Because you didn't know Italian.
I've never been to Italy. I don't know Italian. And I am singing in the Spirit. I'm singing in a tongue. This guy says he's calling on the Lord. He's singing a song calling on the Lord in Italian. So this guy just pops up and yells it when he sees what's happening, because no one else knows. Yeah, this guy just happens to be in the crowd.
I know Italian. Yeah. He's singing in Italian.
As a kid, this guy.
Were you awake when you were singing, or you don't remember singing?
I just hit the ground. I'm awake, but I'm just singing. It's such a kind of moment that you're almost like, I don't know what's happening. Yeah. It's like your brain is not involved, but it is. Yeah. You're just going along. I'm just bumbling along. Getting to this place, following the music, getting to this place, and then going up. I'm just so bumbling along. I just hit the ground after I run to this thing. I start singing in tongues, and someone walks up to me. Bonnie Chopped gets off the platform. She has a ministry team with her that comes off of the platform, and they start praying over me. And they say they start giving me prophetic, encouraging words. And they're praying over me, and this particular person asks me in my ear, he says, do you want to get baptized in water? And I say, is this what you do next? And he says, yes, you get baptized in water. And I got baptized in water later on. So I got saved. I got prayer language. I got baptized in water all that morning.
That was a big day for you.
It's a very big 12 hours so in there, and then Timmy just went from there, and glory to glory. Yeah.
And sometimes things are going to happen when we ask God, because I believe this encounter happened for you because you were asking God questions.
Yes.
Where are you? Why can't I see your face? Who are you? Yeah. Reveal yourself to me. And I think that you doing that for those 3 months, 4 months in that apartment is the reason you had this encounter with the Lord, because you had been asking. I want to, so you have this prophetic gift. I believe in generational blessings and inheritance. Yeah. And with your mom operating in the word of knowledge and being able to give prophetic words and encouragement to people, I believe that passes down, just like you're going to pass down that gift to your daughters.
Absolutely.
In some way. And you operate in that in a strong way, being able to hear from God. Anybody can hear from God, though. I want to be real clear. You don't have to go to other people to hear from God. Right. But one of the ways that God can speak to us is through other people.
Absolutely.
And which I think is amazing, because then it's like, I'm not trying to be dependent just on myself to go. I got to try to figure this out all on my own.
Absolutely.
That God can come to you in the middle of the night in a dream at 3 or in real life at 3:16 a.m.
That's right.
He can do it however he wants to do it. He can sing a song in Italian.
Yeah.
And people go, he's calling on God.
Yeah. He's declaring the praises of the Lord. Yeah.
Yep. So hearing from God, anybody can do, but then you hear from God in a very special and unique way. And we are stepping into a whole new decade, 2020.
2020 is
and I
coming
am very excited about 2020.
me too.
Why am I so excited about 2020? What do we need to know about 2020? What is God doing in the earth? What do I need to be doing in the earth? What is happening right now?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? Where do I need to focus my attention? What can I expect God to do? Or what can I expect to see God do through himself, through other people?
Yeah.
What do you feel for this year?
Yeah, those are some great questions.
I just threw a whole bunch out there.
I would try to
you take your pick on where you want to go with this.
And wherever you
just take your pick.
Want to ask another question or specific to it, please jump in. I believe that the Lord is very loud coming into 2020. I think 2020 is very significant, not only as a year, but really as a decade. And you even as huge. We were talking earlier, we both agree that this year plays into the decade. It really is not such a separated thing. It's almost like this year is 10 years. So it's very important. And the Lord is going to do a lot over this decade. So a lot of even the prophetic words you might even hear from multiple people. I don't know what everyone is probably saying, but the words that you might hear even from other voices are, I think, whether they know it or not, is actually speaking about the decade, not just even the year. Also,
I agree.
So yes. And one of those major ones is that of course I've been talking about for a little while, for a few months now, is the pay, the P-E-Y, that is in the Hebrew. It's one of the numbers for 5780, for the 8 and the 5780 that we call this Hebrew year that we've stepped into.
Yes.
Yom Kippur is the 5780 year. And I think it actually is true. Sometimes those things are a little bit funny because they're just speaking to a broader thing. But I think this one's very significant and specific, and that pay means the mouth, or the year of the mouth, the time of the mouth, or the season of the mouth. And I believe that 2020, including this year, we've actually made a larger shift. So if I can speak even broader for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the voice, or let me do specific, and then maybe a little bit broader, and I'll bring it somewhere, hopefully. On a specific level, because of the voice, I'm very aware of this through a few dreams recently. I'm very aware that in Scripture, you see the eyes of the Lord are moving to, looking for someone who's righteous, who will call on the name of the Lord. Different things like this. It's talking, when it's talking to Isaiah and Ezekiel, just different people. But I believe the Lord is looking for someone whose voice he can really use. I think there's been so many voices, but there's a mix in the voice that carries almost a grumbling, a murmuring, that the language of the enemy, which is out of the devil means, as you know, slanderer. It means this is a slanderer, and the Lucifer, Satan, is an accuser. That's his voice. That's his title, is the accuser. And the demonic are these slanderers. In other words, they're these voices of the enemy that try to paralyze people, demean, devalue, stir up gossip and murmuring, and the twisting of truth and reality, and manipulating it and making it false and fragmented, and to get people to be more angry, more upset, more isolated, more divided, more stirred with fear, is re-stirring fear. This voice, the Lord is looking for a voice that doesn't carry the same speech of the slanderer, which does have that murmuring, that grumbling, that gossip, that backbiting, that kind of stuff in it. Because I think it's gotten into the church, even some of its leadership, where it's just so spoken against one another internally in the church, probably, and also on a leadership side, maybe to the churches or to the church. but the Lord is really looking for a pure voice, a pure mouth, a pure pay in this year, because it's not just for this year, it's for many years. It's for more of a decade, for a changing and a transition and a shifting, literally on a global level, to a new season.
Yeah.
And so I believe that is very vital, so that the prophetic can be a clean and pure and a true, edifying and exhorting voice for the body and for individuals. The reason why the prophetic is vitally important, like The Office, for example, one of them, is because we all can hear from the Lord, but the Lord always loves a confirmation or a witness. So it's wonderful when, let's say, the Lord speaks to you and then a prophetic person comes along and says, I feel like I heard this for you. And it's something that you already heard. And that's a confirming second witness.
Yes.
That Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians, and actually in a couple areas. It gives that witness so you know how to move forward with the Lord, with his word. And the scripture can also be another confirming kind of place. You always want to get things,
because God will not contradict his written word in the Bible.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're exact. It's always going to be, and the word of the Lord is the word of the Lord.
Right.
So it's very vital. But I think the Lord is looking for a true pay in this season, and it'll start to differentiate the real voices. And it'll cause some of the real voices, you'll see their authority over this decade, really, but in this year, you'll see the beginning of that more, where, this prophetic voice has real authority.
Yeah.
And this one is a sons of the prophet, good. And this one has some real authority.
And we're talking about authority, the prophetic that you're talking about, the voice. You're talking about people of influence, people who speak prophetically over nations and countries and governments and in huge spheres of influence. But I'm also thinking of how dialing that down to a city or a church or an individual or a school, how even this year of the mouth, for me, I've been hearing guard your mouth. Guard your mouth.
Yeah.
Because we can speak the grumblings and not even realize what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we are declaring, we have to guard our mouth. What we are talking about and what we are saying is what's going to happen. Yes. And what do we want to see? I even think of when you were telling that story about when you were struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts, you had to use your mouth to talk to your mom to say, this is what I'm struggling with. And the person that you went to with your mom, it was a mom that has been guarding her mouth, because you said she was only kind and spoke softly to you and was always loved to you. So I think of how that can go both ways. Like if you're that person, because I feel like a lot of people, I feel like this is the year, we were talking about justice earlier before we started recording, but I feel like this is a year, I just thought of this. I think that there are people that have been struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts that have not talked about it.
Yeah.
They're going to start talking about it. And I think it's justice is coming for them. Like, I think the gavel's going down and the God's going, this is over for you, but they're going to have to use their mouth.
Absolutely.
To do that. And so what we want to see happen in our families, in our finances, in our health, in our children, in our cities, our communities, and nations, it's going to require us using our mouth and declaring the word of the Lord over it. Yes. Is that okay to say?
That is a fantastic thing to say. I believe sometimes there are these seasons, and there's in the year and the day of the Lord, you see these seasons, these days, these meanings that you see in Scripture. But I think in our day, in our moment right now, and in the season that we're in, the Lord is anointing the voice of the bride of the church, and because He's doing that, it can either go in how we speak, and that's our internal voice as well as out of our mouth.
Oh, the internal voice,
which dictates each other. Yeah. As you know, it dictates each other so much, and that world, it'll be either blessing or curse. Where it was before, it's almost like we had this leeway and could get away with all this kind of stuff. But because of what the Lord is doing, and because He's putting a stronger anointing to break a yoke on the church, so that they can really become the bride they're supposed to be. And we've got to clean or tighten this rope or clean this up because it's going to be vitally important. because that anointing gets there, it can go a negative or a positive way. And, in using it. So it'll require for us to recognize, the faster we recognize that our voices and our mouth needs to be a blessing, I think the faster internally too, the faster we'll move into that place of prosperity or blessing or sonship or daughtership or functioning from a true royal mindset in a heaven on earth way. I love to use the song that Louis Armstrong sang way back in the day. I see skies of blue and trees of green. Again, the 60s, I think he sang that song in the 60s, which was in a place that still was coming off this negative fear mind, woe is me, and its politics, and coming off of World War II, two world wars not too long after that with that generation, a depression that came off and still that was ingrained in that generation. There was so much fear still happening around the culture and in the nation and in nations. And you have this guy come forward and he starts singing the blessing. And it starts propelling him into prosperity with his music, with his song. And it starts preparing other people to start seeing a future,
Sing Skies
a good
of Blue.
place, and cultivating heaven on earth. And so that as a practical example could be used on an individual level as well as on a church or a larger level.
Right.
And hey, how are we thinking? Are we dialed into heaven on earth? Are we dialed into what the Lord wants to establish here on the earth? We're not leaving. He's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he wants to do some wonderful things, and he wants to use the bride in a strong way. He wants to grow up the bride. He wants the bride to be a true voice and a true mouth in this season, in this time, and get it right and be right. You know what I mean? Right with him. And I think you're going to really see that. And when the voice gets strong, and it's really combined with love, then you have that power that's in the voice. When that love is there, and like you said, on an individual level with my mother, or on a level that's from a platform, or whatever platform it could be, the power of it will come out, and you will see it'll be one of the majors in getting the harvest right. And there's been a lot of words. Of course, you've heard this from me. You've heard this at the Ramp. If you've been paying attention to the Ramp ministries I'm a part of. But there's this harvest, massive harvest word that we're pursuing, that we're going after, but it will require for the voice to get right.
Yeah.
And if the voice has a place where, a few years ago, it felt like it was so strong, but you had this people that were afraid to talk about Jesus. There was like this fear. It's like the parable where we were putting a bushel or a basket on our head, and so the light couldn't be seen. It's like we were giving into that fear, that basket on it. There was fear or self-criticism within our own selves. Woe is this. We were criticizing ourselves so much, so we were paralyzed, or wouldn't do something, or wouldn't go after something. We were so critical, so self-defeating, so self-rejecting, so negative in our internal world, and even critical or demeaning or sarcastic or mocking even with our mouth towards other people, that it was kind of limiting even the gospel, even the strength of the church, even the people moving outside of the church, even the harvest going forward, even people getting saved at our house or home. We wouldn't talk about Jesus in our home anymore with the relative that didn't know Jesus because he had a louder voice than we did. You know what I mean? And it's like there's something that's gotten back into us really that is a confidence, like the Lord talking to Joshua, be confident, be bold, be confident, go after the promise. It's like his voice and that breath has got him back in, that now we're getting confident and we're ready to talk. But we just need to have a good mouth so that people can really see, that we are a true Christian. We, like you said, we've bridled our mouth in a way where other people can see, their words are good. What they say is good. Come and talk to them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And we're able to almost engage a lot better and even be offensive in the way that we go, because we're confident and we have a mouth that really is a blessing and really is permeating with love on the inside, and not some fear voice or some self-rejected, self-pity type of voice.
I noticed you've been using your voice lately and have been talking and sharing a lot more. You have a phenomenal revelation on dreams, interpretation of dreams, which we will get into one day, because that's like a whole weekend of conversation. So if people want to hear more about the things you're talking about, so you're doing some stuff, these little videos on Instagram. Is that where I'm seeing them? Are you doing stuff on Facebook?
Yeah. You could.
Where do you want people to find you?
Well, I'm trying to launch a website here before the last day of the year.
That would be so great.
Yeah. Which is total more of dreams and visions in that world, and hearing the voice of the Lord, of course. And trying to launch that to give more of an outlet of so much of that good stuff that you were talking about. So
when you get that launched, I'll get the link to me, and we'll be posting it so that everybody will add it to this podcast so people can find it. So when that gets launched. Okay, yay website. Okay, where else?
And so, of course, that is on, goes out to social media outlets, which I mainly use a Facebook page and an Instagram page, IGTV. And I try to every Wednesday talk about some element or some important factor with dreams. With the website, I'm trying to say a lot more so that people can just learn faster. And because as a community that around here are very wonderful prophetic hearing the voice community, a community really of prophetic people that probably need to get out as a community around the nation more rather than just a couple people maybe, but which I believe that very strongly. I believe actually, like Elijah and Samuel had schools of the prophets, I believe there's a prophetic community here in this area that I agree very strong. So I'm trying to really aid and encourage that as much as I can and empower that, because I believe the gifting that's here. And so that those are two outlets: Facebook page, Instagram. That's WJ Hollings and Josh Hollingsworth, and the website's joshhollingsworth.com, or Eyes to See is really what it is. .com. And of course, I'm talking a lot about 2020. You're right. It is there. The one huge thing I love that you mentioned this is the expectation. There really is an expectation. That expectation really is a part of the Spirit of the Lord, and it really is actually going to help people get hungry. When people get hungry, it is like chemical reaction for revival, for real moves and works and manifestation of the Lord.
It's the year of the mouth.
It's the year of the mouth.
It's time to speak up.
That's
and not
exactly
just the year,
right.
but it's the decade.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
It's going to be exciting.
Well, I really want to encourage people to connect with you online. Yeah. Like if there has been anything you have said that has fascinated them, even if they have a lot of questions, there may be some people that go, hey, I had a similar encounter happen, or, there may be some guy right now listening in Pakistan that had Jesus show up to him in his room, and he may have some questions. Thanks for coming and talking to us. I am so excited about 2020.
I am too. It's going to be very powerful, very fun.
We'll have to have a recap in a year. Have to have you come back.
Yes, I would love that.
And let's recap on the year.
I would love that, actually.
On some of this stuff. That'd be awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Wow, I am so excited to see what's next. It seems like the possibilities are endless for what is about to happen in this new year. I hope you are stirred on the inside like I am and anticipating what is coming. Remember how Josh talked about being in the Hebrew year 5780. The number 80 is represented by the Hebrew letter Pei, which is symbolic of the mouth. This is a time to guard our mouths from complaining, gossip, and offense, and use our mouth, our voice, to declare blessing, healing, and the word of the Lord over ourselves, others, our situations, our families, our cities. You get the idea. I loved hearing Josh's crazy story about how he met Jesus. It's amazing to me that God will just show up in dreams, visions, or in real life in the most unexpected ways and radically change people's lives. Josh Hollingsworth is the real deal, and in the 4 years I've known him, he has lived in a constant pursuit of knowing Jesus and teaching others how to see and hear from God. If you'd like to get connected with Josh, he's on Instagram as WJ Hollin, Hollin, and Eyes to See Ministries. On Facebook, you can look for Joshua Hollingsworth. We'll also put those profile links in our show notes for today. Friend, 2020 is coming, and I am cheering you on in whatever it is you're wanting to see happen for you personally. If you want, send me a message and tell me what crazy thing you want to see happen in 2020. It can even be just one sentence. I want to put your name and your big thing on my 2020 vision board in my office so that I can believe with you for great things to happen. It can be something health related, a business you want to launch, you want to get married, have a baby, write a book. It doesn't matter. Find me on Instagram or Facebook under the name Melissa Matheson and send me a message or leave a comment under the posts that I've made about 2020 vision. That's Melissa Matheson. Math, like 4 + 1 = 5. I before E, son, S-O-N, as in my 17-year-old son who got a cookbook for Christmas, and look out Food Network, I think I found you a new star. Friend, come back on Wednesday for our very first episode of the new year. My friend Laura from episode 11 is back, and she is helping me launch a new series for the month of January. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I cannot wait. Grab your coffee and maybe get a second cup ready because we have a lot to talk about Wednesday on What's Next, God?